So what we're going to have is, pulling this up here, Sam Ferguson. He's going to talk about efficiency in pen testing, developing your own tool set. He's going to talk about developing your own tools and scripts for your personal arsenal and efficiency. And he's going to actually go through a sample script, so that's great. Just really quick before I bring them in, just want to thank Palo Alto Networks and all they've done for the B-Side CT this year, as well as CloudKnox. They also had a raffle as well. And our other sponsors, Polarity, Bishop Fox, Crete, and Mirabilis. And just big thanks to them. And at this point, let me bring Sam in.
Alrighty. Oh, there I am.
Hi, Sam.
Cool. Hey, how are we doing? All right, let me see if I can get this screen share going. Where do I do that? Here it is. Okay, let me get this going and then we'll get started. All right. Everyone see the screen? Are we good? Everything look good on user end? Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Sam Ferguson, and I'm going to be talking about efficiency in pen testing, how to develop a bit of your own tool set, or as I like to call the alternate title, how to make a B-Side CT speech in under an hour. So let's get started. A little bit about my background. I'm a senior at Ball State University, which is in Muncie, Indiana. I study computer technology, and I have a focus on security. It's my passion. It's what got me into this major. It's what I really like. I've done a little bit of intern work in security architecture and software security. And part of the reason I'm actually here at B-Side CT is that I'll actually be going out to Hartford to work for CVS Health as a part of their IT/LDP program when I graduate. So really excited about that. Really excited to see what the state of Connecticut is like. But for now, we'll get into the kind of meat and potatoes of this presentation. So the whole point is talking about developing your own quote unquote tools, and you'll see why that's important later. But why exactly would you want to develop your own tool set or work on things when there's already tools out there that do most of the things that we're looking for? Well, the thing is, not all tools are designed to be efficient. You know, they're inefficient with things like user inputs. Maybe there's a lot of options, a lot of flags you have to set when you're running it through the command line. Maybe it requires a lot of data from other tools that you have to pull in, and there's not a built-in way for it to do that. Or maybe there's too much user interaction that's required. You know, it's something that is not a difficult task, but it requires you to kind of keep your eyes on that tool that's running and to be able to have to enter certain inputs at certain times, and that takes time away from you doing something else. And you know, this can be really frustrating for tasks that are repeated. If you have to do a one-off script every once in a while, no one's really bothered by looking up a couple flags that they need to remember to add in, or you know, pulling down data and putting it in. But if you're doing this, you know, daily or quite often when you do your pen testing, it can be really, really annoying, and we don't want to have that happen, to just get frustrated by the way things go. So how exactly can we fix this? Well, we can make our own tools. We can make our own scripts. And how exactly do we do that? How do we start? So to begin that, we're basically just going to use some tools. Just start working with various tools. You know, you might read some documentation on certain tools that you'll use for your pen testing process and realize, you know, hey, these two would work really well together, or hey, there's this part of this that I definitely want to make more efficient right off the bat. But I would say that only accounts for maybe 5 to 10% of situations. So most of the time, it's really going to come from putting in the work, using your tools, practicing with it, whether you're an aspiring pen tester, if you're an actual pen tester, you know, going in and doing your normal daily work. And you'll kind of realize after time, oh yeah, you know, this tool right here, like this process is so inefficient. It's not done in the best way, and I could save time by doing it some way else. And so from there, you pretty much have to figure out what exactly about that tool is inefficient. What is the root cause? You know, root cause analysis is really important, especially when you're doing some form of scripting or developing applications, because you might develop something for what you perceive to be the problem when in reality it's actually another problem. So you want to be sure that you're figuring out what exactly is really making this process of using this tool difficult and inefficient, and what's making it take up so much time. And once you figure that out, you'll be able to start planning out your tool and what your tool needs to do. So you're going to figure out, okay, well, so here's the inefficient part of it. This is our inefficient aspect. Now, what exactly do I need to get this tool to do in order to make it efficient, to put it in a state where I'm happy using it, where it's not taking up as much time, where it's optimizing the entire time that it has to complete its task? And then pretty much from there, it's as simple as going ahead and building it. But you might be like me when you first saw us and go, hold on, wait a minute. I'm not a developer or coder. I don't know how to write code. Like I work with maybe you're an infrastructure or systems person, and it's just not something that you do quite often. Or maybe you're a student and it's like, well, I'm more in an information, computer engineering, computer technology degree. We don't really touch much code or develop anything. Well, don't worry. As you saw earlier, I'm right there with you. I do not code very much. It's not a lot of what I do, but I use it sometimes. And really, for developing things on my own, it hasn't been that much of a problem, because the only requisite knowledge you need is to understand programming knowledge. You basically should be able to go through some code in whatever language and at a high level generally understand what it's doing, or be able to piece together what it's doing. You might need to Google search a certain set of functions or certain keywords that are in the specific to that program. But as long as you know things like control structures, your for loops, your while loops, your if then statements, things along those lines, and just understand how code reads and how very logical it is, if you can do that, then you're going to have absolutely no problem developing the script. Another problem you might face is, well, I don't know exactly how to do all these specific details. I only know a little bit, but we're in the IT field where, we know the fundamentals, the basics of everything, but then everything else goes to our wonderful friend, Google. So if you have a problem, if you are considering, hey, I need this part for my tool, I need it to be able to do this. Well, how do we solve that? Oh, we can just go to Google and look it up. Do you need regex for a valid IP address? Do you want to check the input to make sure it's a valid IP? You could Google it and probably find it. You need to pass an output from one tool into another? Not sure. You can probably Google it and find out how to do that in some programming language. And the awesome thing about scripts is you can write it in pretty much whatever language you're most comfortable with, especially if you're just developing it for yourself. Now, I personally prefer to use Bash and Python, because Python is a very simple language. You've probably been exposed to it at some point or another. Really, really easy to use, and it works on any platform as long as it's got Python installed. Super easy. And of course, Bash, if you work in the Linux environment a lot, I know when I do any sort of CTFs or pen testing related items, I'm pretty much always in a Linux box. So developing a Bash script for it, if that's the only place that I'm going to use that script, then it's really easy to just build it in Bash, and then pretty easy to pipe in all the commands, run everything that I need, and we really don't have a problem from there. So what does this look like when we actually take the time to develop this script when we build things? Well, here's an example that I have. It's a little script I made called MassMap. And for any of you CTF players out there, you're probably going to enjoy this, because it will be pretty helpful for you. So I do a lot of CTFs just online, kind of the asynchronous ones. So things like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. I like to mess around with those to practice and learn. And I was doing some scans using Nmap, as you do. And I found that they were taking a really long time, especially for systems where I had to go scan all 65,355 ports. And I wanted to get the most information out of it. I wanted to do an intense scan, so I was always running it with the Nmap TAC-A option enabled, and it would take a long, long time. And especially if you're someone running these on things like a virtual machine or maybe a laptop that doesn't have a lot of memory like I was, it was really hard, because you could pretty much only have that thing open, or you might, put your VM up to max capacity, and it was frustrating. But then I found this other tool called MassScan online, and was reading through some documents, some blog posts that people had written, and I thought it was really cool, because the main point of it was that it scans really, really fast. It's really quick. It actually claims it can scan the internet in like 8 minutes or something. Now, obviously, you need like a 10 gigabit or like some stupid amount of gigabit network card and a really high speed connection, but regardless, the tool actually does scan fast. It really does scan quickly. The only downside, of course, is that it doesn't have the detail that Nmap has. you can't use the service enumeration tool like you can find in TAC-A or TAC-SV and Nmap and get the detailed information about what services are running on those ports, which can be really useful for CTF, especially if it's a time-based one. You need all the time in the world. So I kind of thought to myself, hey, maybe I can put these two tools together and have them run efficiently. So I started going through the process and thinking about what I needed to do in order to build this tool. So the process was essentially this. I needed to scan with MassScan and output the results to a text file because I went through MassScan and actually realized that their text file output format was quite nice. And then I need to format it into format MassScan output into a format that's usable by Nmap. And then from there, let it ride and then profit. So we got a quick example here just showing the MassScan output and then the Nmap output of some ports. These are from two different scans. I'm just doing it for example's sake. So I did it and it seemed to work. So here are some very hastily put together screenshots of MassMap, the script that I built. And we'll kind of go through it here just a little bit, kind of showing what's going on. So basically, we have some checks doing here, making sure everything is good, some error checking and all that stuff. Then we've got the MassScan run, which will basically run MassScan against a certain IP address and interface. And it'll scan all the ports. As you can see, it's got all the ports there. Then it will check to see if any ports have been found by just reading the MassScan text file. And then from there, it'll run Nmap by putting in all those ports into the Nmap command. And pretty much we're good to go from there, and we get our output. Now, obviously, this is a decent amount of code. It's 100 lines of shell script. But I do want to point out that I really only wrote like 5 lines of this thing. Like here, binary check script. Checks to make sure all the binaries are installed. I'm pretty sure I found that on Stack Overflow. I just Googled it, and it was like, okay, paste in, change names to MassScan and Nmap. As long as they're good, awesome. IP address check here. Also found that on Stack Overflow. Checked for the valid IP, good to go. The interface check. I'm pretty sure I made some sort of modification to it. It's been a while since I actually worked on it. But I definitely got the basis for this off of the internet. So it was so that was no problem at all. Then go down through here. The MassScan, that command was pretty easy to write out. The port checking, pretty easy to write out. This one, so actually, I'm going to go back a slide. You can see MassScan outputs all of its files, all of the ports that it scanned like this. So all I'm doing actually in that command is I was like, okay, I can cut down all these ports here that are in that third field of the cut command. And then we'll get an entire list of all the ports that are open on that server. But I was like, okay, the problem is Nmap takes its input as a comma separated values type format. So, you have port, comma, port, comma, port, comma. So I was like, well, how do I do that? So I Googled how to take multi-line to single line CSV. And I found this quick awk command also online and threw that in. And bada boom, bada bing, we've got the script done. So as you can see, like a lot of this was not really a matter of I knew how to write something in a certain coding language. Here's shell script, but of course, in Python, another option. It was really just I knew what I was looking for, and I went out, checked it out, made some minor modifications because I could read and understand what was going on, and then no problem at all. I was pretty much done from there. Just a few the custom items that I knew I had to set in myself. But other than that, that was pretty much it. So the process actually isn't as challenging as it might seem initially, especially for those of you who maybe just haven't had much exposure to code or maybe haven't worked with some of these tools too much. But it's actually a quite straightforward process and something that's especially doable even for those with limited coding experience. And that's pretty much all I've got for today. I know this is quite a short talk, but again, I did not wake up this morning expecting to give my first ever talk. So it was a great experience though. So first of all, shout out to the B-Sides people for letting me do this. This is super awesome. I've always wanted to give a talk, but glad I got to do it. Thank you guys, of course, for listening. I've got some information here. I've got a blog page. I try to post somewhat often. My MassScan kind of write-up or MassMap script write-up is actually on there. And for those of you who are in CTFs, you can download that script on my GitLab. Got to get that plug in there somehow. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on Twitter. I really like talking to pretty much anyone who's in the security field, whether you're a student who's just getting started out and wants to get into information security, or you've been in the field for many years. I'm always willing to give advice to new people coming in or seek advice from people who have been in the field for a long time. But that's pretty much all I've got. Does anyone have any questions about the whole process or just any general questions at all? I'd be more than happy to answer.